What makes us resilient? What makes some people continue to pursue their goals and dreams in spite of roadblocks or challenges? What if all we needed was an opportunity? Imagine if we trusted our talents, our abilities, and our strengths, then took a chance on ourselves. FutureProof is a Cincinnati State faculty and student-created podcast where students, alumni, and employers share adventures in learning outside of the classroom. We hope you will cheer, cry, and laugh along the way as we share our students' stories of resiliency and overcoming the odds. Find out what happens when we finally stop saying no and start saying yes.
Hello and welcome to FutureProof, the podcast about Cincinnati State alumni out in the world doing amazing and successful things. They're here to talk about their journey to Cincinnati State Technical and Community College and how they got here and what they've been doing since. I'm Jane Martin Dressing.
And I'm Amy Donbar. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. We have an amazing alumni.
I'm so excited
on our program today, and
even though he doesn't know
when
the
we started this, he doesn't.
Went to Elder.
Okay.
Sorry.
No one from Elder was heard on this pod.
I'm sorry. Go Bombers. Sorry. Bombers.
Okay.
Season tickets.
We're gonna edit and post on that.
Go Bombers.
So when we first started this project, FutureProof, and had this idea of, bringing people on, talking about what they do, we hear these amazing stories. We know students are out there doing cool stuff, but nobody else does. And very few people are like, hey, I didn't really connect that cool person to their experience at Cincinnati State. And when we started talking about this idea to launch this, I said, Ben Klayer. I said, this guy.
It was.
Yes.
We tell that to everyone.
It's just a standout.
But no.
Ben is, for those of you who are going to be meeting him for the first time today, Ben is a community activist. He is a poet, a published poet. He is a Price Hill Community Council board member.
What? I would have behaved better, Jane.
Small business owner.
Better. I'm sorry, Jane.
He is all the things. And, personal story, when I have ever been out doing any sort of community action, protest, I will not name names of the protests, but when I've been out there, I see Ben out there as well, because he's that guy who is speaking truth to power all the time.
Did you see her in front of the bulldozer? That's all I want to know. Was it the bulldozer?
I don't know if he was born then. Okay,
I'm sorry, Jane.
I have been protesting a long time.
Well, that's pretty impressive because Jane is everywhere. So that's pretty impressive, Ben.
I know. I was so surprised when I saw her for the first time outside of the school. I was like, what?
Did you have that thing where people see teachers in the grocery store when you're little and you're like, what? You buy groceries. That's so
what?
weird.
Your cart's full of wine? What?
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you.
It is really exciting to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here.
Ben was my student at Cincinnati State and also worked for the college, and just has an amazing story of in being somebody engaged and involved in all sorts of things. And Ben, tell us a little bit about what brought you to Cincinnati State.
Yeah, so interesting story about why I enrolled in Cincinnati State. So I was a high school student at Elder, and I was on the academic team at Elder. And Cincinnati State used to have the academic team.
Yeah. Still do.
Matches.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we used to come up here every Tuesday, I think it was, and compete. And so that's how I actually got kind of familiar with Cincinnati State. And so when I graduated high school, I was kind of like in a state where I didn't really know what to do, what I wanted to do with my life. I was working at a circus at that time, so I was kind of doing that.
Here we go.
Wait, time out. I need you to stop. Tell me.
Circus.
So you're on the academic team at
Yep.
Elder, competing here at Cincinnati State, and you're working at the circus. What are you doing at the circus?
Here we go.
I was a magician and a juggler, and I did a few other things too. Balloon animals, stilt walking a little bit.
Still walking.
Is there
If this
nothing-
was like we were actually like making a video of this, we would have you still walking
definitely.
for this. Okay.
Yeah, we would
I could
do
at
it
least juggle.
while
I
you're
don't have
doing it.
stilts
my
with me right now,
God.
but I could juggle.
We could find.
Wow. Well, we will. We're
Yeah.
going to find something. So, on a side tangent,
Oh, I
because we
can't
never do
wait.
those on the show.
Not at all.
You know, the students in my class, on the first day of class, I say, tell me about yourself. We do a little around the room thing. Everybody hates it. And Ben does mention that he is a magician and all the things, juggler. And, I'm thinking to myself, man, I got some birthdays to plan at my house. And I'm hiring this guy to come. And he did. Listeners, he did. He came and he was the magician at my child's 5th birthday in our living room with every kid in the neighborhood lined up. And he was juggling and he was pulling rabbits out of a hat. And not really, no rabbits were harmed, PETA. So Ben,
I
all right.
remember that.
Well, and Cincinnati State listeners, if you want to work, take Jane Dressing's 190 class. All right, if
I will
did
get you a
Exactly.
job. I may hire you myself.
Yep. That's how it went.
I will get you a job.
We'll see if that helps enrollment in the 190s, right? Okay,
Yes.
go ahead. Sorry.
So Ben, you're working as in the circus, and coming to Cincinnati State, that's a natural transition. Circus
Yeah.
to circus.
Exactly.
Elder academic team circus Cincinnati State. Yep, that sounds
Okay.
all right. Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. I didn't know if I wanted to stay as an entertainer. So I decided to come to Cincinnati State just to take some classes. And it just so happened that I fell in love with the school, so I stayed here for a while and got a degree. And while I was here, actually, Jane was my co-op coordinator, and she helped me get a co-op here at Cincinnati State in our development office.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. So what
Yeah.
were you doing in development for your co-op?
Development, we did all the fundraising for the school, and it was such a cool time. Like when I was a student worker there, it was such a cool time because we were in the transition between finding a new president for the college. And so at that time, while I was a student worker, they hired Dr. Posey
Wow.
as the president. So I got to be like really involved with her inauguration, which was such a cool experience.
What was
Yeah,
that
that
like?
was huge.
What was that like?
Oh, it was incredible. Just thinking about that whole experience. I mean, we planned the event, not only the actual ceremony, but there was a dinner afterwards that I got to go to, which was so cool.
Where was the dinner?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
It
off the
wasn't
top of-
here.
It was
No,
fancy.
It wasn't here.
It was
Yeah.
fancy.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was at an actual like event hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. So development, working with like Elliot Ruther and Kim Taylor, who both still
They're
work
still
there.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kim was my supervisor, and she is just
Amazing.
amazing.
She's incredible.
She has the
Tasmanian
kindest heart.
devil of
Yeah.
alumni and connection.
We love her.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
love Kim Taylor and Elliot so much.
And that kind of gave you this little service leadership kind of bug, this like
guess so,
nonprofit,
yeah.
making connections with people, because you were instrumental there and had that student perspective of what's going to engage people, what's going to make people want to stay connected to this college. I think having that student perspective on all of that event planning was so key.
Yeah, definitely. It was great because when I was working there, I got to engage with a lot of the students, but also a lot of the alumni who've been involved for a long time, and just building those relationships. And what I was doing specifically, I did a lot of data entry.
Wow.
So I was inputting information about all the alumni. And Kim likes to talk me up. She says, "Oh, Ben he was the best. He did a great
Oh,
job.
yeah,
He did
she
everything
still talks
perfect."
about you.
I know.
It's-
Every time I see her, she brags about me to
Aw.
everybody.
Oh, yeah.
She's so kind.
So you're here at Cincinnati State,
Mhm.
and you earned an Associate of Arts, did
Correct,
you end up? Okay,
yes.
and you co-opt in development.
Yep.
And so where did you go after that?
After that, I just started working straight after school. I started off at the Friars Club over in St. Bernard by Roger Bacon, and I was helping her. Her name, the executive director, is Annie Timmons, and her husband Lannis actually coaches basketball, and he has a basketball program that plays here at Cincinnati State as well. So I was helping Annie with a lot of administrative stuff, but also a lot of fundraising too. I helped organize some events.
Oh, okay.
So I did that for a while, and then I went to Santa Maria Community Services in Price
Oh,
Hill,
wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
where I live, and I was there for a few years, and that was incredible.
What'd you do there?
More
Development?
Yes, more
Okay.
development, and I was in charge of our big annual fundraiser. But while I was working there is when the pandemic actually happened,
Yeah.
and so we didn't get to do our event that I'd been planning.
Wow.
And so we had to keep pushing it off for a few years, and we finally got to do it in 2022, and so that was a huge success.
Wow. So you were here and still doing your circus thing, still doing entertaining, lots of side gigs, working on campus. But also what I remember is that you were writing a book. You were writing a book. Tell us about that. This is so cool. When you're a teacher, you, especially at community college, you hear all these stories and you meet the students and you get just a surface of what they're about. And then the more you get to know them, you find all these cool things about them. They're like multifaceted, that you were a poet and a writer and that you shared that in class. And just tell us a little bit about that.
When I was, my first year here at Cincinnati State is when I actually published my first book. It was a collection of poetry that I'd written in high school. And I remember that, I remember when I got like the email from the publisher saying, hey, we want to accept your manuscript. I was sitting here in the one of the hallways at Cincinnati State, and I was so excited about that. And my next class, I think, was an English class with Meredith Effler.
Oh, wow.
And so I ran in there and I was talking with her about it. She was so excited. So I did that, and then my popular book that everybody knows is a memoir, actually, called No Outlet.
Oh.
I wrote that and published it in 2016, and
Wow.
it was about growing up in Price Hill.
Let's hear it. Let's hear a little bit about it.
Wow.
Okay, listeners, you just don't even understand what it's like to work with community college students, because this is what we hear every day. Oh yeah, just a little book that you might have heard about that I wrote and published.
It's no big deal.
A second book.
So yeah, No Outlet is about my experience, my adolescence growing up in Price Hill, which in case anybody who's listening is unfamiliar, Price Hill is a very interesting neighborhood. There are definitely like a lot of positive and good things happening in the neighborhood, but there's also a lot of bad things, a lot of poverty, drug abuse, stuff like that. And so the book is about how me and my best friend kind of like navigated through that and came out on the good side, on the positive side, and just made good lives for ourselves.
Ben, what do you think that was about? How do you think that you were unscathed in that experience? Because I'm sure that you probably could look around you and see kids you went to grade school with that didn't have such optimistic outcomes.
I think it's good parents and a good best friend and good support system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just very interesting because a lot of the families that lived on the street together, they weren't as fortunate as I was to have such a good support system. And so even keeping up with them today, 10 years later, and just seeing like how different our lives are, it's a very like odd feeling sometimes, but it's also like very grateful for me as well.
Do you remember making a choice like, I don't want to go that way? Or did you just always know that's not my path? I have a different trajectory.
Maybe not consciously, maybe not like not being like presented with the situation where like, oh, I could do this.
Here's heroin or whatever.
Yeah.
Try this.
Yeah.
Not that per se.
Yeah,
but
it's more just like understanding the circumstances of how those situations come about and just realizing that there's a greater purpose.
You have an old soul.
Mm-hmm. He does have an old soul.
Did you, before you got into development, when you were younger or even at elder, and I know you said you didn't know what you wanted to do, you weren't sure, but what sort of were the things that you were kicking around when you were younger? I might do this, I might do that.
I wanted to be a teacher, actually.
Okay.
Specifically an English teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking about that for a while.
Yeah.
But just experiences have changed my career path
Yeah.
in a very good way.
Ah,
I'm
well,
happy
that
where I'm
might
at
still
right now.
be simmering. That's
Maybe.
and
Maybe at some
that
point.
poet writer is still there. So maybe
Uh-huh.
the teaching of writing and that
Yep.
craft is still in there.
I've had a lot of good English teachers throughout my education, including here at Cincinnati State.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Cincinnati State English.
Yes.
Are you writing anything now currently?
A little bit. I recently did a very short manuscript for like a novella. It's a horror story, and I've been kind of sitting on it for a while. I haven't really like pushed it out there to any publishers yet, but I need to get on that.
Okay.
Get that published.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that might be we may come back to part 2
Exactly.
horror novella
Uh-huh.
story. So Ben, you didn't give up on Price Hill though. You wrote this book, you got into organizations that were really embedded in Price Hill and doing good, but you took it a little further than that even, and you bought a house.
Yes.
You invested completely in the neighborhood.
I
And
love
tell us-
Price Hill.
Okay, tell us what you've been doing, because now you've got a whole new gig.
I love Price Hill. I love giving back to the community that has given me so much. So after I moved out of my parents' house, I had a few apartments there, and then I bought a house in 2020, right in the summer of the pandemic. So that was a very interesting experience.
Yeah.
And I've just been very involved in the community. I was appointed to the board of directors for the West Price Hill Community Council.
Whoop, whoop.
I was appointed to that in 2019, and I've been serving ever since. About to be elected to a new term in actually a few
And how
weeks.
old are you, Ben?
20, almost 29.
Almost 29. So, already serving as a board member.
Yeah.
Okay, at 29.
That's a great experience. It's taught me a lot about how to be a leader, I think.
Mhm.
It's been a great experience. Community councils, a lot of people don't understand what community councils are. They're all just volunteer organizations, and almost every neighborhood has a community council.
Mm-hmm.
And what they are is basically a liaison between the residents in the neighborhood and city council. So when we meet every month for our general meetings, all the neighbors come into the meeting and share their concerns. They talk with different organizations that are there. They talk with the police about some problems. Sometimes our elected officials come in and talk to them. And then so they present everything that they want. And then we, as a community council, go towards city council, our elected officials, and say, hey, here's what we want as a neighborhood. So that's what community councils are. They're a really good way to engage and bridge that gap sometimes that exists between the neighborhood and the elected officials.
What happens locally, what happens in communities, what happens in neighborhoods has such a greater impact on the day-to-day lives of people living in neighborhoods, living in communities, having a difficult time with a neighbor, or having a business that they're worried about, or loitering or squatting. And sometimes people tend to think, this is a city of Cincinnati issue, this is a bigger issue, I really need to get out and vote for who's going to be president. But at the end of the day, it's those individuals, often volunteers, who are serving on neighborhood community councils that can really have a greater impact. And what has been your experience with that? What you mentioned the parade and being involved in Thanksgiving Day parade. Are there some other things that you feel like, man, this is how politics works. This is how shared governance works in community.
Yeah, of course, in the community, there's a wide variety of issues. You mentioned a few, but there's all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people do think like, hey, the city council needs to act on this, or the police need to do this or whatever. But city council and the police have other priorities and they need to focus elsewhere. So sometimes it's much more it's a much more efficient process to go to our community council and go to our meetings and say, hey, here's this issue I'm having or that I saw. And then what we can do as volunteers, we say, oh, we know this organization, we can connect you with them that can help you with that. Or we can do this, or we can write a letter of support to city council and have a little bit more authority than just you coming and speaking at a meeting. So like city council and elected officials, they can be they're very great in a lot of ways, but Cincinnati is such a large place, and there's only 9 city council members that they can't be
52
everywhere.
neighborhoods.
Exactly. That they can't be everywhere at once. And so the community councils at the local level, we're a lot more familiar with the specific needs of each neighborhood.
So really grassroots politics happening here, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. Community councils, I think, are a great thing. A lot of people don't really understand what they are yet, but I think in general, community councils are becoming much more popular and engaging, just because of the way that they're structured.
I feel like there's maybe a kind of a return to the city neighborhood sort of love that's happening right now, where people want to live in urban spaces, but they want to be really involved in their communities. They want to be able to walk to things. They want to be able to support a local business, a local restaurant, and that sort of being really involved in the city center through these neighborhoods is really a kind of a movement, if you will, right now.
Yeah, and I look at a lot of neighborhoods that are really doing a great job right now, like College Hill. Their business district, they just had an event last night. As last night, meaning when we record this podcast, called Light Up College Hill. When it was a big Christmas event, they had 1,000 people there walking up and down the business district. I mean, they're doing a great job, and so that's really like a partnership between the community council and the business association, and also the community development corporation as well. So like College Hill's doing a really good job. Westwood is doing a fantastic job with their business district, really supporting their small businesses and getting people out there to show up.
This was really just born out of your love for your neighborhood.
Yes, I just am so curious about where this came from. I mean, I know you wrote a book about Price Hill and you've been really invested in it, but this sort of servant leadership, I'm not just going to live in my neighborhood and go to the restaurants and support the businesses, but I'm going to really be on the council, involved in decision making and shared governance and local politics. And where do you think that came from? What about who you are drew you to that?
Oh, I don't know. I just really enjoy it. My both of my parents are from the West Side. My dad grew up in Price Hill as well. My mom was in Westwood. So it's kind of a generational thing. We've been there for a while. And I just like getting involved in meeting people and helping them if they need help, and just being a good civil servant.
Yeah. What do you think that owning a small business has opened your eyes to in terms of living in your community, or just being in the business world? What's that been like?
How much trash is in Cincinnati?
Oh man.
Yeah.
There's so much trash.
So there
everywhere.
you go, listeners. If you want to start a business, just start picking up trash and see where it leads you.
Exactly.
It'll lead you to.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
There's so much trash, and again, that's another like thing that city council works a lot on.
Really?
They like city council has a lot of different programs, not only for residential trash pickups, the cans, but also they have public cans. But it's such a pervasive problem anyways that, again, city council can't fix it all at once. So there's a lot of volunteer groups that go out and pick up trash all the time. But I just realized that some private entities, like stores and such, where volunteers may not go into to pick up trash, there's really a gap there. So I just stepped up and started offering my services.
Yeah. And it makes a huge difference. If you've ever traveled and been to a city that their mission is really to keep their city very clean, you notice it right away. You're like, wow, there's no trash here. It really is. It's an obvious. Shout out to Disney. If you've ever been to Disney, you will not find a piece of trash anywhere.
Yep.
I mean, it's like it's the magic of Disney. They magically pick up any piece of trash. But it does really make a difference. And I'm sure for a business owner to have that, nice space, inviting space, and especially as neighborhoods, I think, are trying to be really offer more walkable spaces. And, that's what's cool about Cincinnati is that we have all these unique, interesting neighborhoods that I really feel like are experiencing a resurgence right now. People were getting away from living in city neighborhoods, urban areas, and I feel like there's kind of a comeback to that, a desire to kind of work and live and shop locally.
Yeah, definitely. Cincinnati is definitely becoming a lot more walkable and bikeable too. There have been a lot of new bike trails installed and bike lanes on the roads. There's one on Central Parkway.
Right out
Yes.
front. Right out front.
Yep.
It takes some getting used to.
It really does.
Listeners, we don't want any calls in or emails about the bike lane on Central Parkway. We might hear about it. What are some things that you've done? What are some ideas that you've had that you've said, this is kind of what I think Price Hill needs, or what this community needs, or maybe even some listening, some information you've received that's like, wow, that's a whole different perspective that we hadn't thought about.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I could talk about with that, but I'll focus on one thing is the Thanksgiving Day Parade, which we just did. So the Thanksgiving Day Parade was a long-time tradition in Price Hill. I mean, it had been going on for decades, and everybody loves it. There was a committee that would organize that parade for a long time. Mm-hmm. They retired last year, and last year we didn't have a parade, and everybody was like really, really like upset about that.
Yeah. The work that gets done that people do out of the love in their heart, it is so hard to quantify the importance of that and the joy that brings, but also for people to understand this was done because somebody stepped up and did it. And who's going to fill these shoes? And that we see that everywhere, where generations of people leaving roles. And if that's important, who's going to step up and do it?
Yeah, exactly. It was such a great neighborhood tradition. So when it didn't happen last year, it was just like a void in the community. And so I did not start the new committee. Somebody else did. And
I did not want to do that. You can't say it out loud. If you say out loud that you missed something or you want something to happen,
you're on it.
Then you own it.
You bring it up at a meeting.
You can't make eye contact at a meeting. You cannot.
You're in charge.
This is so true about, when you're
everywhere.
In this kind of nonprofit world, people, when you say hey, I have an idea, then it's yours. And you're
done.
Exactly.
All right.
I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna let that be. But then somebody else started and approached me and said, "Hey, you want to join our committee?" And I said, "Sure." And,
you want to run it? Okay.
Yeah. It was very at the beginning when we started planning it in February. We had a brand new committee. We had no idea what we were doing for this event, so we started meeting in February. And at that point, we were trying to raise some money for it. And me, being the fundraiser, everybody's like, "Hey, you want to be? You want to get some money?" So
you're like, "I'm just a juggler. I'm sorry.
Pretty much.
I'm a magician. I got magic, but I can't pull the money out." Okay.
Let me put a can out here. Give me some tips for the parade.
You're just out there, is it called busking?
Busking.
Busking.
Yep.
You could just
what is busking?
Oh,
busking is like.
Look, I knew a word.
I'm
Did
proud
you see
of
that?
you. I couldn't tell if it was an activity.
Listeners, I didn't really say it
urban. I was
right.
about to pull up the Urban Dictionary. What's busking?
Busking.
Is it a
thing?
I was like, is she busking a move? I didn't know what was happening.
Kinda.
Okay, go
Busking
ahead.
Bakery.
There you. Oh no! I thought that too.
Busking
I'm sorry.
Bakery.
Oh my God!
Wonder if you
read
can
my mind?
busk at busking. They probably don't let you busk.
What is?
Of
I'm
busking.
just gonna. What is it? Enlighten
So,
me.
have you ever been to Bengals or Reds games
Yeah.
or something really popular, and
Yeah.
you're walking
Finley
into the
Market.
stadium? You're walking into the stadium and you see somebody out there with a guitar or
spoken
whatever.
word or
and they're just performing. They have a little can or a hat next to them. You drop tips in there. That's busking.
That's busking.
Oh, there's a term for it.
Maybe that's how we could raise money at Cincinnati State.
I can't
we'll just
wait,
you and
Jane.
I will
Please,
stand out.
I'm there.
Tambourine,
whatever.
Just Monday mornings. Bring it.
I'll do it. We might scare dogs away with my singing, but
When I got here earlier, Carly. I was talking with her. She mentioned that she needs some funds for some new equipment.
Okay.
So that's what you can spend
there we
it
go.
on.
We can start busking. FutureProof busking.
I'm in.
Busking.
Jane, if you're doing it, I'm in. What is it about this woman? You're like, hey, want to juggle at my kid's birthday party?
Yes.
I'm like, whatever she says, I'm in.
She's
I'm like,
a great
let's
connector.
go. She's wonderful.
What do you call that in chemistry when the thing that's the connector, not a
I didn't do
catalyst?
well
is it
the
called
catalyst.
I'm an
catalyst?
English guy. I don't know anything
didn't
about
do
science.
well in
That's not
chemistry.
right. Is it catalyst? I don't think that's the word.
Maybe.
Okay.
Catalyst is the beginning of something.
That's not the word then. All right, I'm
We'll
going to
come
bring it
with it.
back next time,
Listeners-
Future Proof. For our next episode, I will know
Listeners,
this word.
email Jane.dressing at Cincinnati State with the chemistry word. Maybe Laura Morris and Mary are listening and they can. Anyhow.
So, Ben, you are, okay.
Sorry.
You do this Thanksgiving Day. So how did it go? You got the people together. You
is it
started in
like?
February. You planned it, and
Is there a big Mickey Mouse balloon? What is it? Tell us
Not
about
quite that
it.
big.
Okay.
It was fantastic, though. We had a ton of different floats and different groups walking in the parade, all like local organizations that are like on the west side. It was amazing. It's so cool because Price Hill is such a diverse neighborhood with a lot of different like racial and ethnic groups living in that community. And they all come out to watch the parade. And they line the streets down Glenway and Warsaw, and it's just such a beautiful thing to see.
I love
Cincinnati.
that. My joyometer is going off.
I love
here.
that. Was there candy thrown? Is there people thrown?
few,
Okay.
yes.
Do they still do that? I'm old. Okay.
Was
Little
it
bit.
on actually on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, we do it Thanksgiving morning.
Oh, I love that. So, okay, what's next for you? Because I don't know about you, Amy, but I'm hearing political future.
Well, I know.
That's
Should we
what
work on his campaign? Like, that's why I'm like,
That's
is there
what
a
we're gonna-
campaign?
That's
We're
what
busking
you're
for
busking
Jane,
fundraising
council.
basically,
for. Yep.
well, no,
Yes.
Jane got you into development. Now, I mean, we need, what are you doing? So what
doesn't
are you
want
doing?
us as
Tell me
campaign
what are you
chairs.
doing now? And then what's next?
What I'm doing now is running a small business, trying to
Really?
scale that up.
Okay.
You
want to plug it here? You need.
Yes.
Come on,
Please.
plug it.
It's called Klayer Property Care.
I love it.
Klayer with a K.
Yep.
Klayer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I started out just going to businesses like stores and just picking up trash on their parking lots. So it's just something to do on the weekends, picking up trash. They would pay me. But then, of course, customers started asking me, hey, can you pull weeds? Can you blow leaves? Can you do this and that? So I started getting more equipment and gaining more skills, and now it's a full-fledged lawn care service.
Politician and
Wow.
entrepreneur.
Something
Jiminy
like that.
Christmas.
But
Okay.
From circus to published author to fundraising guru to community council member to small business owner. I mean,
Is there nothing he can't do?
could you maybe run in 2024 for president? I mean,
Jane and I will
listen,
busking for that
yes,
or whatever the heck it's
we
called.
need to put a
We see,
candidate
I
out
like
there.
you. I don't
Oh,
like
yeah.
many of the other
Yeah.
people out there.
Right.
So what's next? So that's what's happening now. What's next now?
What's next? I'm not sure. Just growing my business.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to run for office at some point? Maybe.
Okay, you
lot of
heard it
people
here.
Right,
You heard
right
it here on
Future
FutureProof.
Proof.
We tell the future on FutureProof is what's happening.
Oh
I got
It's
the
my
crystal
coming.
ball
gosh.
right here.
Yes.
Crystal ball in the
mean-
middle of the table.
Here we go. All right. That
Well, we
sounds
do
great.
feel that we do feel like Cincinnati State prepared you to be future proof.
I agree.
And you are definitely evidence of all the good that is happening here and all the work that you're doing in Price Hill and beyond. So we would love to see you representing the city of Cincinnati on our council, and we need that kind of vision and passion in our city.
We'll see about that. Not in the cards, but I'm very involved in the local political scene, and a lot of people ask me that all the time. I don't have plans for it, but
Well, that's where it
never
starts.
say never.
That's where it starts. Ben, thank you so much for being
Thank
on our
you.
show today.
Thank you for
and
having me.
Thank you.
we will update our listeners on what's happening with you and your novella and your political run. And thank you so much for being an outstanding alumni at Cincinnati State. And we wish you the best.
Thank you so much for having me. I love Cincinnati State. I love coming back here every time I get a chance and supporting. I was just here last week for Jingle Bell Rock, which was a fundraiser for Alumni
Nice.
Association. Just love giving back because the school has given me so much. just like I do with my neighborhood or whatever else. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
The FutureProof podcast is brought to you from Studio 459, up on the hill at Cincinnati State's main campus in Clifton. This podcast is produced in conjunction with the Cincinnati State Audio-Video Production Program, its students and faculty. Student producer is Carly Baker. If you like what you heard here, please hit the subscribe button. If you're an employer or potential student interested in the programs Cincinnati State has to offer, please visit cincinnatistate.edu.